Welcome to the Sunset Stories channel. Don't forget to subscribe and share your favorite stories with your friends. Thanks for your support and enjoy watching. Dad, don't drink that coffee. Our new mom put something in it. These words from little Noah turned Daniel's life upside down. At first, he couldn't believe his son. Yet when he decided to switch the cups, he was stunned by what happened next. But before we dive into the story, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. The celebration was in full swing. Champagne sparkled in tall glasses. Loud music drowned out most attempts at conversation, and every guest's face seemed lit by a slightly overdone smile of supposed happiness. Daniel, the brand-new husband, found himself on the receiving end of admiring glances. Why wouldn't people stare? He had just married Alexis, a tall, elegant woman with dark, glossy hair and striking gray eyes. She looked as if she'd stepped right out of a fashion magazine spread. By comparison, Daniel, broad-shouldered, kind-faced, with faint circles under his eyes, felt a bit clumsy next to Alexis's dazzling presence. But that didn't stop him from being completely in love. He smiled graciously at the guests, politely accepting congratulations, but her eyes lacked genuine warmth. There was something distant in her gaze, as though she were studying the festivities from afar, like a theatrical performance she merely directed. Every move she made was precise. Every phrase she spoke was carefully measured. She appeared the perfect wife in public, attentive, caring, devoted to her new husband. But whenever they were alone, the mask slipped, revealing a cold, calculating woman Daniel could barely recognize. Meanwhile, Noah, Daniel's 12-year-old son from his first marriage, stood off in a corner, sipping orange juice. He was old enough to pick up on subtle cues. He saw how desperately his father tried to please Alexis, never noticing her indifference. And it hurt Noah. He still remembered how life used to be in the cozier days before everything changed. When Daniel and Linda, Noah's mother, were together, the small apartment was filled with warmth and the scent of freshly baked muffins. After the divorce, Noah ended up living mostly with his father, although he still visited Linda as often as possible. Daniel, noticing the sad look on Noah's face, approached and put an arm around the boy's shoulders. "Hey, boo, something bothering you? You don't look like you're having much fun." Noah shrugged. "I'm fine, Dad. Just everything feels so strange." "Strange?" "Well, yes, it's a wedding. Lots of people." Daniel tried to sound encouraging. "But hey, it's a good thing, right? You got a new mom now." At the mention of a new mom, Noah's gaze dropped. He missed Linda. He missed her baked cookies, her laugh, her way of making any place feel like home. Alexis, on the other hand, felt like a stranger, a person who'd suddenly been inserted into their lives. Someone who, for all her perfect hair and polished manners, didn't radiate a shred of genuine warmth. "Try to get along with Alexis, all right?" Daniel coaxed. "She's just getting used to all of this, too. We're a family now, Noah." Noah nodded, swallowing the uneasy feeling in his chest. But that quiet sense of worry remained. Life at Daniel's house changed drastically after the wedding. Alexis quickly took charge, redecorating everything in sight to her own taste. Every trace of the past, old framed photos, cozy pillows, souvenirs from family trips, vanished, replaced by pricey vases, abstract paintings, and designer furniture. Sure, it looked modern and chic, but it lacked a soul. It hardly felt like home anymore. Daniel tried to foster some connection between Alexis and Noah, but his efforts fizzled out. Alexis treated Noah like a nuisance. She showed no interest in his schoolwork, his hobbies, or his feelings. Noah avoided her in turn and spent as much time as possible at Linda's place. Not long after the wedding, Daniel started feeling unwell, constant fatigue, dizzy spells, nausea. He chalked it up to overwork and the stress of navigating new family dynamics. His construction company demanded long hours, and he figured his body was struggling to keep up. Every day, though, he felt a bit worse than the last. Alexis seemed concerned. She insisted he eat better, handed him vitamins, brewed herbal teas. Most of all, She made sure Daniel never skipped his morning coffee. Freshly ground, aromatic, topped with a swirl of cream. "This will perk you up, darling," she said, smiling sweetly. That smile always made the hair stand up on the back of Noah's neck. Something about it just felt off. One morning, after another sleepless night, Daniel trudged downstairs. A pounding headache made the room spin. "Good morning, darling," Alexis purred, stirring something on the stove. "Morning," Daniel replied, collapsing into a kitchen chair. "Couldn't sleep. Head's killing me." "I'll fix you some coffee," Alexis responded. "You'll feel better soon." She set a steaming mug in front of him. Daniel inhaled the scent, already queasy, but forced himself to take a few sips. "Thanks. I just don't know what's wrong with me lately." "Drink up," she urged, smiling that same practice smile. "Trust me." Noah, who had come home from Linda's that Sunday evening, couldn't shake a sense of dread whenever he saw how Alexis acted around his father. He remembered how Linda and Daniel used to interact. Linda's earnest concern never felt staged. But with Alexis, something about her face, her gestures, felt too controlled, as if she were performing. One evening, Noah returned to find Daniel and Alexis in the kitchen. He paused near the doorframe to listen. Alexis's voice was a melodious whisper. "Daniel, you're working too hard. I just want you to get some rest." "I know," Daniel murmured, rubbing his temples. "But I can't put off my responsibilities right now." Noah peeked around the corner. Alexis was pouring coffee into a mug for Daniel. Then Noah saw it. She slipped a tiny pinch of something from a small vial into his father's cup. The movement was swift, but Noah's eyes were sharp. His heart pounded. What was that? He wondered. Why did she need to add anything besides coffee and sugar? "Here you go," Alexis announced, presenting the cup to Daniel with a radiant smile. Daniel reached out. Noah's mind screamed no. "Dad," he blurted, storming into the kitchen. Daniel and Alexis froze. "Noah," Daniel frowned. "What's wrong?" "Don't drink that coffee," the boy shouted, voice trembling. She put something in it." Alexis froze, mug still in hand. Her face flickered between shock and irritation. "What?" she said, forcing a laugh. "Noah, you must be mistaken. All I added was some sugar and creamer, like your dad always takes." Noah glared at her. "No, I saw you. You had some kind of powder or something." Daniel looked from his son to his wife, confusion creasing his forehead. "Alexis, what's in here?" She shook her head, controlling her voice. "Daniel, it's just sugar and a little cinnamon. You know how you like that special flavor sometimes." Your son must have misunderstood. But Noah wouldn't back down. He grabbed his father's arm. "Please, Dad, don't drink it. Something's wrong." Daniel hesitated. He hated doubting his wife, but the fear in Noah's eyes was too real to dismiss. "All right, buddy. I won't drink it." He turned to Alexis with a tight smile. "Thanks, honey, but maybe my stomach's not up for coffee today. You go ahead and have it. I'll just drink tea." Alexis looked rattled. She hadn't anticipated this twist. She forced a light chuckle. "Fine, if that's what you want. I hate wasting good coffee." She took the cup and sipped, taking a bold swallow as if to prove a point. For a brief moment, it seemed everything was normal. Then, her expression darkened. She clutched her temples, grimacing, as her face went ashen. "Alexis." Daniel stood up, alarmed. "Are you all right?" She mumbled incoherently, listing to one side as if she might faint. Daniel raced forward to keep her from falling. "Noah, get some water," he shouted. Noah quickly filled a glass at the sink, hands shaking. Alexis's entire body trembled, and she complained of dizziness and nausea. Something was terribly wrong. Daniel dialed 911 at once. Minutes later, the paramedics arrived and, after a quick examination, decided Alexis needed immediate hospitalization. Her symptoms screamed poisoning or some other severe reaction. All the while, Noah hovered anxiously, tears threatening. Had he caused this? Or was there more to the story? The medics rushed Alexis to the local hospital. Daniel and Noah followed close behind by car. Throughout the drive, Daniel's thoughts whirled. He couldn't believe his wife could have tried to harm him. Yet the evidence pointed in that direction. He'd known her such a short time. But had he really known her at all? At the hospital, a doctor approached them in the emergency department. "We need to do a full toxicology screen on your wife," the doctor said gravely. "She's stable for now, but it's serious. You mentioned your son saw her add something to your coffee. We'll need to interview him as part of the investigation." Daniel nodded, numb with shock. "Yes, anything you need." Noah was quietly ushered to a separate room for questioning, leaving Daniel to pace the hallway, plagued by guilt and confusion. When Noah finally emerged, he clung to his father. "Dad, I am sorry. I didn't mean to hurt her. I just didn't want you drinking whatever she put in there," Noah said, voice shaking. Daniel wrapped the boy in a tight hug. "Sure, you did nothing wrong. You saved me." The next few hours passed in a blur. The medical team worked on stabilizing Alexis, while the police collected statements. Daniel's mind kept replaying scenes from the past months. The honeymoon where Alexis hardly showed any tenderness, the time she'd insisted on handling all his meals and drinks, her interest in his finances and his will. It all aligned in a disturbing pattern. Later that night, an exhausted Daniel and Noah returned to their house. Daniel couldn't sleep. He ransacked his memories for any sign he might have missed. It was well past midnight when he dozed off, only to jolt awake from nightmares. Early the next morning, a call came from the hospital. The doctors confirmed Alexis was showing signs of poisoning. The authorities opened an official investigation, and a detective asked Daniel if he knew of any motive she might have. Daniel hesitated, recalling how Alexis had prodded him to update his life insurance policy, how she was so curious about the legal side of his business, how she'd repeatedly dropped hints about his net worth. His stomach twisted in knots. Was it all a setup from the start? Shortly after, the police obtained a warrant to search the house. In one of Alexis's locked drawers, they discovered suspicious substances and pills, along with questionable documents. Daniel, feeling a surge of dread, also decided to look through her phone. The messages he found chilled his blood. She'd been texting a friend about the plan, about not rushing things, about how easy it would be to fool a generous but naive husband, and about how she couldn't stand that annoying kid who was always watching her. One text in particular read, "I'll wait until everything is in my name. Then we can travel the world without a care. My new husband is too trusting to suspect a thing." Daniel's whole life, which he thought he'd carefully rebuilt after the divorce, collapsed in that moment. Overcome, he contacted the authorities. These messages, combined with the stash of toxic substances, were enough evidence to detain Alexis. By the time she was discharged from the hospital, the police were waiting. Daniel didn't witness her arrest. He had no desire to see her again, but the emotional toll was immense. Noah, too, was deeply shaken. When Linda, Noah's mother, heard what had happened, she was horrified. She invited Noah to stay with her for a while, so he could feel safe. Daniel, who felt he'd failed to protect his son, agreed immediately. In the aftermath, Daniel wandered the now empty house like a ghost, surrounded by the stylish furniture Alexis had chosen. Every piece reminded him of her, and of the terrifying reality behind her mask. Haunted by questions, Daniel replayed their entire relationship in his head. How had he not seen her true nature? Why had he been so blind to the signals Noah picked up so clearly? He called Linda one evening, voice shaky. He needed to talk about Noah's future and apologize for everything. She listened, shocked by the revelations. "Daniel, I never liked her, but I never imagined she'd go that far." He heard the concern in Linda's tone. Without hesitation, she said, "Noah can stay with me as long as he needs. But he still needs his father. Don't shut him out." Daniel drove over to Linda's the next day, determined to repair his relationship with Noah. Ringing the bell at Linda's door, he felt an ache of regret. Years ago, they divorced, each certain they knew what was best. Now, here they were again, face to face in a crisis. Linda let him in, offered him tea. Noah was in his old bedroom, looking at a comic book. When he saw his dad, he put it aside. "Hey," Daniel said softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. How are you holding up? Noah shrugged, eyes wary. I am okay. Just confused. Everything happened so fast. Daniel hesitated, searching for the right words. Son, I owe you an apology. I should have believed you sooner. I was so busy chasing this perfect life that I brushed off your concerns. I promise you, I'll never do that again. Noah's gaze flickered. Then he nodded. I was scared, Dad. Daniel swallowed hard, fighting a lump in his throat. I know. I'm so sorry. You did the right thing speaking up. Linda entered, quietly watching them. She didn't interrupt, but placed a gentle hand on Noah's shoulder. In that moment, Daniel realized that no matter the shape of their current relationships, Linda and Noah were his true family, and he'd almost lost them. Over the next few days, Daniel spent hours at Linda's place, reconnecting with his son. They watched movies, tossed a football around in the backyard, reminisced about old times. At night, though, the heaviness returned. Alexis's shadow still loomed. The upcoming court proceedings, the media's coverage of a shocking domestic poisoning case, the swirl of rumors among neighbors and business associates. The police soon informed Daniel that Alexis had been linked to questionable activities in the past, though never formally charged. This time, the evidence was overwhelming. She'd carefully planned to get her hands on Daniel's assets, counting on him never suspecting the danger and never expecting a child to notice. Though Alexis was gone, her presence was tangible in the changed rooms of Daniel's house. One afternoon, he decided to remove every piece of furniture she'd chosen. He took down modern paintings, stashed them in the garage, and replaced them with family photos he'd once boxed up. The emptiness was stark, but it felt more honest. When Linda heard about it, she invited Daniel to crash on her couch while he sorted things out. They both agreed that a fresh start was the best path, for him and for Noah, who needed a stable environment. That night, after Linda had turned in, Daniel sat in the small living room, the same space where he'd once read bedtime stories to a younger Noah. Memories flooded back. Simpler times, the minor arguments that once felt insurmountable. He wondered if he and Linda might someday rekindle even a fraction of that closeness. But first, he needed to heal and to prove he was worthy of trust again. In the morning, Noah woke up to find his father making pancakes in the kitchen, something Daniel hadn't done in a long time. The boy's eyes lit up. Remember how you used to put chocolate chips in them? Noah asked. Daniel grinned. Already done. Check the batter. Noah peered into the bowl, noticing the familiar lumps of chocolate. You're the best, Dad. Far from it, Daniel admitted. But I'm trying. They ate breakfast together, talking about everything except Alexis. It was a quiet, ordinary meal, but that ordinary simplicity was exactly what both of them needed. The police investigation concluded swiftly. Alexis was formally charged with attempted murder and fraud. At first, the news left Daniel reeling. He couldn't believe such words were being used about the woman he'd married. But then he remembered the texts, the suspicious powders, her manipulative tactics. She'd nearly succeeded in poisoning him under the guise of helpful morning coffee. Linda accompanied him and Noah to the preliminary court hearing. Noah wasn't required to testify yet, but the prosecutors said they might need him to describe what he saw. The thought terrified Daniel. He didn't want his son reliving that moment. But if it secured a conviction, he wouldn't stand in the way of justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, camera lights flashing. One local journalist tried to approach them, asking invasive questions. Linda shielded Noah with her arm, shooting a sharp glare that made the journalist back off. Daniel realized anew how much Linda still cared about protecting their son. Eventually, they returned to Linda's place, physically and emotionally drained. Over cups of hot cocoa, Noah's favorite, Linda broke the silence. I know we've had our share of problems, she said, but I'm proud of how you're handling this, Daniel. He sighed. I'm just trying to make things right. They exchanged a soft look that carried a hint of their old affection. For now, words weren't necessary. Over the following weeks, Daniel filed for divorce. He also reorganized his business affairs, updating all legal documents to ensure that Noah was the primary beneficiary if anything happened to him. He didn't want to leave a single loophole for anyone else to exploit. At night, the nightmares grew less frequent. Noah, with each day, seemed a bit more at ease, especially when Daniel included him in daily tasks. Grocery shopping, cooking, taking the dog for a walk. The family golden retriever had been with Linda ever since the divorce. Daniel realized that real love and trust are built through these small, genuine interactions, not the grand displays of wealth and style he'd once been so proud of. One Saturday, Daniel drove Noah out to a nearby river, a place they used to visit when the boy was little. They skipped stones across the surface, then talked about mundane things, school, soccer, Noah's friends. But after a while, Noah asked a heavier question. "Dad, do you think Alexis ever really cared about us?" Daniel took a moment to answer. "Honestly, I don't think so. I think she cared about money. Or at least, that's what it looks like now." Noah lowered his gaze to the water. "I'm sorry." "What for?" Daniel asked gently. "For bringing all this trouble by speaking up," Noah whispered. Daniel's heart twisted. He set a hand on Noah's shoulder. "No, you saved my life. Don't ever feel sorry for that." Noah nodded, letting out a shaky breath. They stood there in silence, father and son, each feeling the weight of the events that had nearly torn them apart. Before long, the final hearing arrived. Evidence against Alexis was overwhelming. She barely looked at Daniel as the judge read out charges, recounted the evidence found at their home, and mentioned her text messages. Daniel could only feel a vast emptiness. The woman he married turned out to be a stranger, a predator willing to harm him, and even put his son at risk to get what she wanted. When the gavel finally struck, Daniel felt a sense of grim relief. The trial ended with Alexis facing a prison sentence. But closure would take more time. That evening, Linda suggested a quiet family dinner, just the three of them, the way it used to be. They gathered at Linda's small dining table. The meal was simple: pasta, salad, homemade bread. Noah chatted about a new video game. Linda mentioned a funny incident at work, and Daniel joined in, listening, smiling. The conversation meandered naturally, and for a moment, it felt like old times. After dinner, Linda prepared tea, and Daniel asked Noah to bring photo albums from the closet. They flipped through pictures of a younger Daniel with less gray in his hair, a beaming Linda in casual shirts and jeans, and a little Noah with missing front teeth. The memories warmed the room more than any designer furniture ever could. Finally, Linda yawned, stifling it behind her hand. "It's late. We should all get some rest." Noah hugged his mother goodnight, then turned to Daniel. "Dad, thanks for being here." Daniel ruffled his son's hair. "I'm not going anywhere, buddy." Noah smiled faintly and headed off to his room. Linda lingered in the living room, arms folded. Daniel swallowed hard, aware of how complicated their relationship still was. Yet he found the courage to say, "I'm so grateful, Linda, for everything, for letting me stay, for taking care of Noah, for not shutting me out. I'm sorry about the past. I know we can't just pretend it never happened." She nodded, meeting his gaze. "Apology accepted. We'll figure it out, for Noah's sake." Daniel gently squeezed her hand, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Up in the guest bedroom, the old sofa bed in the den, Daniel lay awake for a while, watching headlights trace patterns across the ceiling. But tonight, he felt more at peace than he had in ages. Noah was safe, Linda was on his side, and Alexis was out of their lives. Those scars remained. He sensed a new chapter opening, one where love, trust, and genuine family bonds mattered more than any illusions of grandeur. He dozed off and dreamed of simpler moments. Sunday breakfasts with Noah, birthdays at Linda's, that first fishing trip they'd all taken together. When morning light filtered through the curtains, he awoke with renewed hope. Outside, the sun was rising, painting the sky in warm oranges and pinks. Daniel got up, stretched, and decided to start the day by making breakfast again, pancakes with chocolate chips. The smell wafted into the hallway, bringing Noah out of his room with a big grin. Linda followed soon after, a hint of a smile on her face as she saw them cooking together. Yes, everything will be different now. Daniel understood that true happiness came not from a perfect facade or a new, glamorous partner, but from the real connection he had nearly lost. And in that quiet morning light, with Noah standing by his side, he realized one simple truth. He'd been given a second chance, and he wasn't going to waste it. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. Remember, sometimes the simplest signs can save a loved one's life. Stay safe and cherish those who truly care for you. That's the end of our story. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Your feedback means a lot to us.